In this video, we'll discuss the Advanced Investigation Guidelines on Violence, Harassment and Sexual Harassment in the World of Work. These guidelines aim to promote a safe and respectful work environment, and we'll explore how organizations can implement them to prevent and address workplace violence, harassment and sexual harassment. It's essential to recognize that violence, harassment and sexual harassment are not limited to one gender or group. It can occur between any combination of genders and can affect all workers, including migrant workers, men and women.
It's such a simple job and you can't even do it. I'll keep your passport until you finish your job.
Violence and harassment refer to a range of unacceptable behaviors and practices, or threats thereof, whether a single occurrence or repeated, that aim at, result in, or are likely to result in physical, psychological, sexual or economic harm, and includes gender-based violence and harassment, and might include sexual harassment. Violence and Harassment Convention, 2019, ILO Convention 190, recognizes that violence and harassment in the world of work can constitute a human rights violation or abuse. We are about to watch a sample scenario of violence, harassment, and sexual harassment in the world of work. Do note this is just one of many types of the potential cases. This sample is used to demonstrate the step of investigation.
Sayang, you look beautiful today, as sweet as my wife. Thank you, sayang. Good night, sayang. What do you think you are doing? Just because you're pretty, you can do this,
Here are the grievance procedures in handling complaints of violence and harassment, including sexual harassment. Step 1. If the harassment complaint is not against the immediate superior, the employee should report the incident to their superior verbally or in writing. The employee can go straight to Step 2, or reporting directly to HR when there is such department in the company. The confidentiality of complaints is essential to protect the privacy of both the complainant and the alleged perpetrator. The employee or immediate superior will then forward the matter to the Human Resources Department for investigation, unless the complaint is against HR. Step 3. HR would request the complainant to file a written complaint and, if necessary, file a police report. HR will then start to investigate the complaint. Step 4. If the complaint is against the Human Resources Department, the employee can proceed to a higher authority in the company and file a written complaint. Remember, for a sexual harassment complaint, according to Section 81F of the Employment Act 1955, any employer who fails to inquire into complaints of sexual harassment commits an offense and shall be liable to a fine not exceeding 50,000 ringgit. Okay, back to the scenario. Since the incident involves the immediate superior, the employee should go to Step 2.
My manager,
The staff talks about the harassment she's been subjected to the HR officer.
I assure you, necessary actions will be taken. Please lodge a formal written complaint against your boss and please give us your cooperation.
The company will appoint a focal point or an investigating officer, IO, preferably someone from HR department with experience in investigating or handling misconduct cases in the organization, who is to serve as a contact point for the victim. He or she remains the center of investigations and all information gathered is only to be given to them. He or she too remains during the course of investigation as the focal point for both the victim and alleged offender. The focal point will first conduct an initial review of the complaint. He or she shall discreetly gather information as to what is stated in the complaint. This is important as one complaint may or not be given by the victim. If it was through a whistleblower, the victim's identity confirmation of the allegations made must be verified. The reliability of the source must be checked through supporting documents or facts. Anonymous complaints must be treated with caution and supporting facts, circumstances, or conditions be taken before even pushing it to the victim. If necessary, the IO may form an investigation team to assist him or her throughout the investigation process. Selection of the investigation team must be done with extra careful consideration as this process must be done confidentially. Timely and well-coordinated investigation will hasten the effort to establish a prima facie case. prima facie means gathering credible facts and evidence for the company to decide the guilt or otherwise of the offenders of the act of misconduct. Article 10(g). The ILO Convention 190 recognizes the right of workers to remove themselves from a work situation, which they have reasonable justification to believe presents an imminent and serious danger to life, health or safety due to violence and harassment. Additionally, workers should be able to exercise this right without suffering retaliation or other undue consequences, while having a duty to inform their employers. The investigation team starts investigating by interviewing the potential victims, perpetrators, and witnesses. Written statements are recorded and signed by all parties involved. All interviews have to be done in confidential settings away from office or outside office hours and immediate workplace, and they should be reminded that their info will be kept confidential and they will be protected from any retaliation. They should be assured that they are doing their duty to take reasonable care for the safety and health of persons who may be affected by the act of violence and harassment. Gathering evidence. The female staff is requested to screenshot all text messages from the male manager and give them to the investigation team to help with the investigation. Other examples may include: get confirmation and take all documents, texts, emails, letters, SMS, or phone conversations. Take pictures of place of incidents to support possibility of violence and harassment being carried out. Evidence of attendance records. Medical leave would be taken to corroborate victims' accent of impact of sexual harassment. Record of negative performance can also indicate the result of sexual harassment. The collection and preservation of evidence is of crucial importance. Documentary evidence and chain should be handled properly, as the evidence may be required for subsequent claim by or against the company. CCTV recording is obtained from the control room to check the violence, harassment, and sexual harassment acts that took place. When the investigation is completed, the investigation team proceeds to a meeting to consolidate the gathered evidence. All evidence is secured and preserved in a confidential manner. The investigation team will then prepare an investigation report to be submitted to the General Manager HR, or Chief People Officer of the company for further disciplinary action. A complete investigation report shall consist of the following: general information on the subject of investigation, the type of case and complaint summary, analysis of all evidence and outcome of investigation interviews, the disposition of the investigation and reach a conclusion, the certification of the investigation report with signature of the IO. The HR team will issue a show cause letter, which then the perpetrator, in this case the manager, will reply to. A show cause letter is an internal formal document issued to the alleged offender employee. It sets out details of an alleged offense and gives the receiving party the chance to explain himself or herself or otherwise face some further consequences. A dateline would be given for the said employee to reply, preferably within 5 to 7 working days, subject to the company's policy on disciplinary procedures. The alleged offender employee should also understand the implications for failing to respond. When HR reviews the reply to the show cause letter, she finds it unsatisfactory. If she is not satisfied or the reply is inconsistent with evidence, then a domestic inquiry is conducted. A domestic inquiry is an investigative internal hearing held by an employer to ascertain whether the said employee is guilty of misconduct. The purpose of a domestic inquiry is to find out the truth of the charges of sexual harassment made against the employee. All relevant witnesses are called, including the female staff, as the company's witnesses. During the course of the domestic inquiry, both parties should be able to call on witnesses to testify and provide evidence to support their respective arguments. To ensure objectivity during the domestic inquiry, the accused employee should be allowed full opportunity to present his or her case. Verbatim notes or minutes in the form of questions and answers to be recorded, or minuted to show that domestic inquiry was conducted properly and in an orderly fashion. The domestic inquiry (DI) panel finds the manager guilty of the charges. Company management imposes a punishment of dismissal against the manager. Taking into consideration provisions in the Employment Act, employers may, on the grounds of misconduct inconsistent with the fulfillment of the express or implied conditions of his service in this situation, or any offenders in similar cases, after due inquiry, A. Dismiss without notice the employee, B. Downgrade the employee, or C. Impose any other lesser punishment as he or she deems just and fit, and where a punishment of suspension without wages is imposed, it shall not exceed a period of 2 weeks. In sexual harassment cases, the law allows the employer to conduct an inquiry into a complaint of sexual harassment, and if the employer is satisfied that sexual harassment is proven, the employer shall: A. In the case where the person against whom the complaint of sexual harassment is made is an employee, take disciplinary action which may include the following: dismissing the employee without notice, downgrading the employee, or imposing any other lesser punishment as he or she deems just and fit, and where the punishment of suspension without wages is imposed, it shall not exceed a period of 2 weeks, and, in the case where the person against whom the complaint of sexual harassment is made is a person other than an employee, recommend that the person be brought before an appropriate disciplinary authority to which the person is subject to. The manager files an appeal to the company, but it was dismissed by management. The female staff is informed of the outcome of disciplinary action against the male manager. Regardless of the outcome in any case, employees are free to file a claim at the Labor Department. But what if the company fails to take disciplinary action when the staff already lodged a complaint? Under Section 81B subsection 4 of the Employment Act 1955, if a complainant is unhappy with the employer's refusal to investigate on his or her sexual harassment complaint, the complainant may refer the matter to the Director General of Labour, DGL. Taking into consideration Section 81B subsection 5 of the Employment Act, the Director General of Labour has 2 options upon reviewing the matter referred to him or her. 1. If the DGL believes an inquiry is necessary, he or she can direct the employer to conduct the inquiry. 2. If the DGL agrees with the employer's decision not to conduct an inquiry, he or she will inform the complainant that no further action will be taken. According to Section 81D subsection 2 of the Employment Act, if the Director General of Labour instructs the employer to conduct an inquiry into a complaint, the employer is obligated to carry out the inquiry and provide a report to the DGL within 30 days from the date of the direction. An employer can be charged with an offence under Section 81F of the Employment Act, and face a fine of up to 50,000 ringgit if failure to inquire into a complaint. Section 81B subsection 1. Inform the complainant of the refusal. Section 81B subsection 2. And inquire into a complaint when directed by DGL and submit a report of inquiry. Section 81D subsection 2. Speaking up about violence, harassment and sexual harassment in the workplace is the right of every employee. We hope that the information shared has been enlightening and helpful in creating a safer and more respectful workplace environment for everyone. However, prevention is key in combating violence and harassment at work. The content above merely detail the steps that should be taken to lawfully tackle such cases. Employers have a responsibility to raise awareness about these policies and procedures amongst their employees. Please refer to www.mef.org.my to download the full Advanced Investigation Guidelines relating to violence and harassment, including sexual harassment in the world of work in Malaysia. This video is produced by the Malaysian Employers Federation, MEF, in collaboration with the International Labour Organization, ILO, with funding from the European Union. The responsibility for opinions expressed in this video rests solely with the producer, and does not constitute an endorsement by the ILO or the European Union.